Traditionally, this is what's been done with chaff dumps. We dump piles in the paddock and then we send them up in smoke. We burn that resource. Today we're talking about what is the potential of using these as grazing and doing away with that, with burning them. Very small percentage, so 1 to 4% of the ryegrass seeds pass through the sheep rumen as viable seeds. Now, one last thing I would like to just question a little bit with this whole process is if we use the conveyor belt chaff delivery, will it still be okay to graze and seed through the dump? When we use a conveyor belt chaff delivery into the chaff cart, we end up with quite a bit of the short straws in the dump, and so if we graze that, will those short straws be a problem to seed through? So that's just putting up a question. Talking to Andrew about it yesterday, he believed that if we were to do that, a lot of farmers have baffles in the back of their headers to minimise the amount of straw going in the dump, so they end up with a little bit of straw but not too much. So there are ways to set up the header so that we don't end up with too much straw, and that stops the ability to seed straight through those dumps. I think I've handed over to you there, Andrew.
Hello everyone. Our farming operation is primarily on leased land. We've got 9 landlords all up, so some of those areas that we've gone onto have had pretty high weed numbers. Why we went into collection and using a cart, they're a very simple machine. They're quick to service. They're very reliable pieces of machinery. So what we do after harvest, we late them and with merino ewes, and we will put them onto the canola heaps first, and then on mating we'll shift them onto our barley dumps. We find they do best on the barley dumps, and then post mating we'll move them onto the wheat stubbles. The wheat stubbles have the least nutrition in them. So what that's done for us is it's brought our long-term merino lambing average well up over 100%. Well, we noticed that we can seed through the odd left heap, so we decided to spread out the heaps across the workings in their lines across the paddock. So all we used for this was an old farm scarifier, and we ran up and back, up one way and then back the other, and smoothed it out in a line about 200 to 400 mils deep. Sheep will do the job on the canola dumps. They will flatten those out absolutely fine. This is a barley crop, and it's still a canola heap, but it's just showing the DBS seeder that we use to go through these is just seeded through, so there's no burning, no flattening, just grazing, and it's presented no problems in crop. And we're standing in the dump. That's where we got the material in my hands there from, and it's pretty composted. I doubt if there's many surviving weed seeds in there. And you can see under that arrow there, it's a dark green competitive crop, causing no problems. So once again, grazing is essential. To add the sheep manure, to add the nitrate to the carbon to get the composting effect happening. It's a Google shot. There's 53 hectare block. It's 3 years of unburnt stubble, and the dumps occurring may be able to see by the marks. If you look at the 2-year-old unburnt heaps with the arrow there, you can see a lateral line going up and down. That's the scarifier marks with the little green crop dots up through it. So they're 2 years. Obviously you can see last year's. It's a pretty late Google shot. And then you can see the 3-year-old dumps. So look, I think the beer can is talked about as a good cut height. I suggest cut height should be below the top of the can. We must keep reminding ourselves that we're selecting for plants that like to lodge and plants that like to shed. So if we've got lodges, then the lower we get, the better. So yes, I suggest the old beer can is a good thing, but you really should aim at cutting it off at about the Victoria sign.
What are the tricks to swathing barley?
Cut it as low as possible, because the higher you cut it, you're cutting your pickup material in half. So cut it as low as possible. Don't try and set it up on stubble, it won't stay there anyway. Plus 2 tonne to the hectare crop. You don't want to be too thin. You need quite a high belt speed. You need to be very gentle with your reel. It needs to be completely straw coloured, no green. Make your swath quite tight. So where you've got those baffles for making your swath tight or wide, it needs to be very tight. Make sure on some of these 40-foot swathers that it's not lumpy. You'll have to walk on the top of it and see if it's lumpy. Don't do too much to start with. You will learn lots in your first year of swathing.